it is once again time for the Connie Reeves Show. And I am Connie Reeves, the hostess with the mostest here at WNRR Gospel 1380, the original one of a kind. I am so very excited, ladies and gentlemen, that you have tuned in to hear another economic report, something that can really help you daily with what you're doing in your life. I am First Lady Connie Reeves, and I have my co-host, Pastor Clyde Lawrence of Los Angeles, California. How are you this evening, Pastor?
Honey, I am great and marvelous. We had a wonderful service today, and truly the Holy Ghost met us there, and now moving on to another segment with happiness and joy with these outstanding gentlemen on the line.
Yes, and we are excited to have them on the line because they are joining us in a very important subject. And we just want to have a lively conversation. We just want to talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, divas and gents, about taxes. Something that we as Americans look so forward to, paying our taxes. So I was reading this article called 10 Tax Tips for Owners of a Home-Based Business. And it was saying that, number one, deduct your home office. It says that you may have heard that the home office deduction is a red flag and that the IRS is more likely to audit the self-employed who take advantage of it. However, if you're legitimately entitled to the deduction, take it. It can be one of your most significant annual expenses. You also can deduct home utilities, office supplies, travel expenses. And we are so excited about hearing about travel expenses deductions because we are essential service and product brokers who specialize in discount travel. And it says that you can deduct any transportation costs, plane tickets, bus fare, taxis, airport parking, rental car. You can deduct your lodging and tips. You can deduct 50% of your meals for business days. You can deduct autos and commuting, taking a client out to lunch, upgrade your office, also deduct your health insurance, retirement plan, and your business structure. If you have any questions or concerns, it's always best to consult with a tax professional. They'll make sure you've crossed all of your T's and dotted your I's. When it comes to taxes and the IRS, you never want to stretch the rules. You may have, but you never want to do that. However, you should make sure you're taking all the deductions that are legally allowed to you. After all, large corporations have legions of tax advisors helping them get the lowest tax bill possible. So there's no reason you should have to pay more than you're supposed to. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a tax professional that can help us understand the T's to cross and the I's to dot. His name is Dr. Ron Muller. He is the founder of the Home Business Tax Savings Learning Center. But first of all, I want to talk to someone who introduced me to this learning center. His name is Mr. Kevin Amos. He is an essential service and products broker who specializes in discount travel, but he also is an affiliate tax person for the Home Center. And he also introduced me so that I am too an affiliate of the Home Business Tax Savings Learning Center. So how are you doing up there in Seattle, Washington, Kevin? And tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Dr. Muller.
Absolutely. Thank you, Connie. I'm doing wonderful. Everything's super and outstanding up here in Seattle, Washington. How I became familiar with Dr. Ron Muller was because I had always looked for a reason on how to present an opportunity without just presenting the opportunity. And if a person only seen the opportunity and didn't see the advantage of having a home-based business, it just seemed so often that people would quit the business too soon. So I ran across the website and began to engage myself with Dr. Ron Muller and became an affiliate. And from that, we just basically developed a relationship over a period of time where we have been able to converse with each other through different media functions and webinars and what have you. And so now we are definitely moved forward.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. And how long have you been an affiliate of the program?
I've been affiliated with this program for about close to 2 years now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Dr. Ron Muller, we are so delighted to have you as our special guest tonight, and we are looking forward to you helping us to understand how we should be doing our taxes, especially as small business owners and home-based business owners. So how are you doing this evening, Dr. Muller?
I'm great, Connie. I appreciate the opportunity to share my information with so many people. I've spent the last 15 years full-time studying and teaching this category of tax law, home business tax law, small business tax law, and it's all I do. It's my specialty. It's my calling.
Oh, really?
I was told by God a little over 15 years ago that there are two places in the Bible, at least, where it says that we are called to be good stewards of God's money. And there's, of course, the parable of the talents that told me that if people are overpaying their taxes, it means they're not spending their money wisely. It is required, pay under Caesar that which is Caesar's, yes. But it doesn't say anywhere that we'll get a bigger mansion in heaven if we overpay Caesar. So I think we overpay Caesar, we're wasting God's money. And so my mission is, in my campaign, is to teach as many small business and home-based business owners as possible about the tax deductions available to them, because most of them don't know. Nearly all home-based business owners are overpaying their taxes by minimum $3,000 and usually $5,000 to $6,000.
Wow.
Just because they don't know about the tax deductions that Congress put in place already for small business owners. They're already in the tax code, but the IRS just forgot to tell us about them. So I'm trying to tell people about them so we don't miss out on deductions that are perfectly legal. I do not believe in gray areas and tax dodges and all that stuff. Everything I teach is I can trace everything I talk about I'm a tax educator. And when I educate on taxes, I can teach everything that I talk about, I can trace back to the specific tax code section or tax law or tax court ruling that authorized it. So I feel good about what I do because I'm helping people to minimize one of their most unfavorite subjects, which is taxes, and do it legally, morally, ethically, and as good Christians.
That is awesome, and that is so wonderful because it's so many of us that do not understand taxes in general. And I find that it's also hard to find a tax preparer that knows home business taxes. So tell us about some of the things that we are allowed to deduct. I read what this article says, but can you elaborate on some of this?
Sure, I'd love to. And before that, Connie, I'd like to mention something you said just about 30 seconds ago, and that's that it's hard to find a tax pro who really understands this area. That's because home business and small business tax law is a narrow area, narrow category of tax law. It is not taught in, last time I checked, it was not taught in a single accounting school or business school or law school in the country. And there are only 2 states that even had a continuing education course for lawyers or CPAs in this topic. So by and large, most tax professionals, tax preparers, don't know. And they don't know that they don't know. That's the scariest part. So when you go to them and they say, have I taken all the deductions I qualify for? They'll say yes, but they may not be aware of some of the deductions you do qualify for. Most of the time when people read my book, which is called Home Business Tax Savings Made Easy, what all I've done is translated the convoluted tax code into plain English so the average person can read it and understand it. And when the IRS reviewed it, they came back, they didn't come back with asking for a single change or demanding a change or even suggesting any changes to it. So what that meant to me was they would never say this directly, but what I infer from that is that means that I have translated the tax code into plain English accurately. And now the average person can read it in just a couple of hours and say, I get it. That's easy. I can do that.
So it says that you can deduct your home office, and a lot of people are hesitant to do that, thinking that they're going to be audited.
Anybody who has a tax pro who says, don't claim the home office deduction because it's a high-risk area, their information is at least 7 years old. Because 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago now, Congress discovered how the IRS was interpreting the home business deductions or home office deductions, and they didn't like the way the IRS was interpreting them. They said that's not what we meant. So to change the meaning of the law, they changed the laws, and so now it's in fact it's now risky to not take it, and that's because if you claim deductions for home-based business or small business, you have to prove that you worked your business on a regular basis, have a profit intent, and are keeping adequate records. Well, if they ask if you didn't file the form for writing off your business use of your home, then a tax auditor could very well say, "Why would I think you're in a real business? Real businesses have a place they operate from. Where do you operate from? Your back seat, your trunk?
Exactly.
There's got to be someplace." So you want to claim your home because that proves the intent to have a home-based business. Now, one of the clarifications that came out not too long ago that really helps us is home-based business does not mean and no longer means that you need to carry on the majority of your value from your home. It used to be that there's a famous case of an anesthesiologist who had his office in his home and claimed the deduction, and the IRS declined it because they said the primary value of what you do is in a hospital operating room, not in your home. And he said facetiously, he said, no, the primary value of what I do in my home is I bill my clients. But that's what alerted Congress to how IRS was interpreting this. So now they've changed it and said that's still what there are 5 different ways you can qualify for a home office for a personal tax deductible a portion of your home. And I only teach one. The default setting is if you do the primary administration of your business from home, you qualify. Now, what's administration? It's paperwork, and it's if you schedule your meetings from home, if you have team calls with your network marketing or associates, that counts. If that's where you fill out your deposit checks, your commissions and bonuses, that counts. Those are all administrative functions. If you do those from home, then your home qualifies. And I especially love talking to, for a better term, I'll say travel agents. I know it's broader than that, but I love talking with travel agents because they qualify for more tax breaks than anybody. Because most people, the biggest category is cruises. Most people who write off cruises are wrong. They do not qualify the way they attempted to make their deductions. And there's some hoops you need to jump through, which I teach. But with if your primary business is booking cruises, or if that's a primary portion of your business, then anytime you go on a cruise, it's a family trip, right?
Right.
As long as you fill out the forms that do an evaluation of the cruise, you're doing it for the purpose of getting more educated so that you can help more people understand why they should buy this cruise. It's a familiarization trip. So you've got an advantage that lots of other, most other network marketers and small business owners, home-based business owners do not have. They've got to jump through more hoops. There are other things they need to do in order to make sure they're deductible. But for yours, it doesn't make any difference what you do other than you call it a FAM trip and you attach to your tax records, not your return, but your tax records, a copy of your evaluation form for the FAM trip, and you've got documentation. That's why you went on the trip, and it's 100% deductible.
Wow.
That's great.
Really interesting, and that is really great because now this article says that you can deduct any transportation costs, plane trips, bus fares, taxis, airport parking, rental car. So is that true, Dr. Muller?
Yes, it is. Anytime you're on a trip that is primarily for business purposes, those are deductible. And in fact, even when you're not on a trip, when you're at home and you're driving around in your car, going to and from business meetings and talking to prospects and clients and going to business presentation, tolls are deductible 100%. Absolutely. So it's you keep track of all that stuff, and there's a lot of deductions. And the mileage itself is worth in 2016, this new year, the mileage itself is worth 54 cents a mile. So if you put 10,000 miles on your business miles on your car, which is not difficult to do these days, that's $5,400 in tax deduction just from that one tax deduction alone.
Wow.
Business use of your personal vehicle.
That's awesome.
You can write off all the Bellman tips, things like that. You can deduct all those things as long as you have a record of it. A scheduling diary, a calendar. And in the calendar, every time they spend something for business purposes, they just write it on the date of the calendar. $2 tip to Bellman. $5 tip to concierge, whatever. And by the way, you said you like to stay at nice hotels. There is no requirement that you stay at cheap hotels. The IRS cannot tell you to stay at Holiday Inn instead of the Fairmont or the Ritz. You stay wherever you want to, and it's 100% deductible. This is one category. There are only two categories in taxes where you need to have an actual receipt. In most cases, if it's under $75, you just need a record of it, but not an actual receipt. But for travel, like airfares and train tickets, etc., and for lodging, you need an actual receipt. So as long as you have that receipt, whatever it says on that receipt that you spent is deductible, as long as you're on a business trip.
And you're saying that's over $75. You have to have a receipt.
For any lodging and transportation, you need a receipt. And for any other category, you need a receipt only if it's over $75. Like, for example, you business entertainment. You take somebody out for dinner and it costs $60. You do not need an actual receipt for that. It's a good idea to have it, but you don't have to have it. You need a record of it. What you can do is you can write down in your diary the date, of course. You can write it in that date, and then say that what restaurant you went to and who you entertained, how much you spent, and what you discussed, and you've got documentation then. That's all you need. You don't even need the records.
Because, the one thing, I'm sorry, but the one thing that I always forget is to get a receipt from a taxi cab driver.
That's always a good idea, and they've all got them, and they'll usually hand you blank receipts. You can fill them out yourself. So it's a good idea. It's a good idea to get those. They're not required, but it helps substantiate your deductions. You see, if those people who get audited, now less than 1% of people in America get audited every year.
Less than 1%,
Less than 1%. And it's now down to less than 1%. But if you're in that 1%, for you it's 100%, right? So what do they lose? The number one reason for losing deductions in an audit is lack of proper records.
Yeah.
So if you don't need if you write down somewhere on your calendar the amount of money you spend on a taxi, that's good enough. But if you have a receipt, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because the more documentation you have, the better. You cannot over-document. Take a calendar that has enough space to write in. Don't take one that has a whole month on a page because you can't write much in there or write very small. But every time you have it, do anything that's deductible, write it down in your calendar. Because if it's under $75, that will probably be full documentation. In fact, there's a tax court case of a woman who came into to a tax court and her written in pencil in her calendar. And the IRS said that's not sufficient documentation. And the judge looked at it and he says, I accept this as full documentation. And that's precedent setting, which means anybody can now do that.
Have you been keeping up? Did you know that you could deduct things without the receipt? What about you, Kevin?
I only learned that from listening and conversing back with Dr. Muller. Dr. Muller, I did have one thing I wanted to ask you about. What if a person has a child that is over the age of 6 years old? What is the maximum amount of deduction or tax savings a person can, if a child's helping them out in their home-based business, how much can they claim?
Oh, you opened up a great category here because most people have never heard of this. But you can hire your own kids to work for you in your home-based business. And the tax court ruling says a child must be over the age of 6. So if they've reached their 6th birthday, they qualify. And they continue qualifying as long as they're a dependent on your tax return. Now, how much can you deduct? You can pay them. You need to pay them a reasonable wage for whatever it is they do. Of course, the older they are, the more money you can pay them because the more valuable their work is. But the amount you can pay them tax-free is it's equivalent to the standard deduction. So for this new year, 2016, the standard deduction will be $6,400. So you can deduct up to $6,400 of wages to your child, to any child and every child you've got that's at least 6 years old and under 18, or under 23 rather, if they're going to college. Under 18 in any case, under 23 if they're going to college on a full-time basis. So that's a lot of deductions. So you can pay your kids here's an example. You could give your child a $10 allowance, and you have to earn about $16 to $17 in wages in order to bring home $10 to pay them that allowance. But if they did $10 worth of work in your home-based business, say they did something you're paying $10 an hour for, and they spent an hour doing it, and you document that properly, then you can pay them $10 in wages. And money that a business spends on wages is tax deductible to the business, and the income up to $6,400 is tax free to the child. So no taxes are ever paid on it. The best, and you can use that money for anything that benefits the child except room and board. So you could take that money that you pay your child, put it in an account that you have access to, and you can use it to pay for their tutors, their tuition, for extracurricular activities, sporting goods, sporting equipment, anything that benefits the child. Literally, it can be backpacks, socks, and underwear. Anything that benefits the child except room and board can be used. That money can be used for. So it's a great deduction that almost nobody understands. I do an entire chapter on that in my book. For those of you who have grandchildren, let me say this: that the courts have recently ruled that the reason that young children can be you can deduct their wages is because they're exempted from child labor laws. Child labor laws say a child has to be at least 16 to work, and at least 18 if it's in some businesses. But that's to ensure the child is working in a safe working environment. The courts have ruled that a child working for their own parent in a home-based business is presumed to be in a safe environment. Therefore, child labor laws don't apply. That has now been extended to grandchildren. You can have that person do work like internet research.
People say they can deduct their dog.
What I said was this simply, that if you've got a home-based business and you've got something in your home worth protecting, then you can write off the cost of a security alarm system. If you had ADT come in and install an alarm system, the installation cost would be deductible. The monthly maintenance fees would be deductible. And the annual checkups and new batteries and all that would be deductible because you're protecting business property, right? Well, if you don't have a security alarm system, but you've got a dog that barks ferociously when somebody comes to the door, then the purpose of an alarm system is what? Not to catch a criminal, to scare them away.
Right.
So if you got a dog that does the same thing, why isn't the cost of buying the dog tax deductible, same as buying the ADP equipment? And why isn't the dog food throughout the entire month deductible every month after month, the same as your monthly fees to your insurance company? And why isn't there annual vet checkup? Why wouldn't that be equivalent to your annual checkup for your security system? So if your dog is performing security, there is no reason you cannot write that off.
That's interesting. Now, does that bring up a red flag to the IRS?
You need to call the purchase of the dog security alarm system purchase, and the monthly dog food and what have you needs to be security alarm maintenance, and the annual checkup needs to be annual security alarm checkup when they go to the vet.
Wow. I love it. And just keep the receipts for everything?
Yeah, keep the receipts for everything, and be sure and prove. All you got to be able to prove is you don't have any other alarm system. So this can't be a secondary alarm system.
Okay.
But if you don't have anything else, see, in an office building, you set the code before you walk out of the door, right? And that sets the alarm system. You think the owner of that business isn't writing off their alarm system? Of course they are.
Right.
Well, if instead, what do junkyards do? They have junkyard dogs. That's their alarm system. They don't have buttons they push when they leave. They have dogs they release when they leave.
Exactly.
And that's the alarm system. And it's absolutely 100% deductible if you use a dog as a security alarm system.
I love it. I love it. I have one last question, and that's when you talk about you can deduct your home office. Now, we are homeowners. Now, what about if you have an apartment? How is that different, or is it?
It's not. It's not. This is the only area in tax law that I'm aware of where renters get a tax break. So if you own a home and use 20% of your home for business purposes, you write off 20% of your mortgage payments. But if you rent an apartment and you use 20% of that apartment or townhouse for a home-based business, you get 20%. You write off 20% of your rent. It makes no difference. Renters and homeowners both get the same tax deduction for business use of the home. Nice big deduction. Most people don't know about. That's what I'm all about, is showing people a deduction that are waiting for them, but they just don't know about. There's a saying that ignorance is bliss. Well, I think ignorance is expensive. if your ignorance is about tax deductions you qualify for but don't know about, you can't do anything with them. You don't know about them.
That's right.
That's right. I'm just trying to spread that word for the Lord.
Oh, my goodness. Well, if you want to have more information about tax news and how to learn more about what Dr. Muller is talking about, please go to www.l2leaders.com. That's www.l2leaders, LEADERS.com, so that I can connect you to him as being an affiliate of his program. And for those who want to know how to save money with all of their travel expenses, please get in touch with me with travel news, all the travel news that you need to learn about your taxes, your expenses, about wonderful islands and different places to travel, because with travel, we know that it relieves stress, and we need to relieve as much stress as possible. And you can go to www.conniesshow.news. That's www.conniesshow.news, or call me in my private studio at the Connie Reeves Show, toll free at 505-652-2107. That's 505-652-2107. We thank you so much for joining us tonight and listening to this vitally important information on how you as an American can save on your taxes. Good night.